I had a lot of amazing plants already growing in the garden early in the season because things like sunflowers and zinnias were blooming and it was January. So that was a little bit odd. We had a very late, warm fall and winter came a little bit late this year. So we finally got that ice storm. Within just 2 days, it went from 73 degrees to 16 degrees Fahrenheit. And we're here in central Texas, so we often have ice storms. This one was one of the worst with the thickest ice I've seen in a while. But luckily, the ice did not freeze so much on the branches, causing as much damage as it did a few years ago when Austin lost about 30% of its tree canopy. So when I heard ice storm, I was definitely worried. Let's see how everything did. I dug up some sunflowers, my eggplants, not all of them, but some of the best ones, or some of the ones that were easier to dig up. I went ahead and dug up some eggplants, peppers, sunflowers, Mexican sunflower, and basil. Some of them survived and some of them didn't. My goal for that is to try to overwinter these plants so that they can go ahead and just keep growing in the spring instead of just always starting over. So some of these annuals don't have to be annuals. They can be perennial plants if you are able to do overwintering measures in some way. So let's go ahead and take a look. This time there's a little bit of experimentation going on, and we'll see how they did. I know from years past that covering isn't going to help, so I saved the plants I know aren't going to make it through that. Believe it or not, in January, here I have a blooming sunflower. So I took those all out by the root using my hori knife. And I just stuck it in and kind of wiggled around just barely until it would give and let me pull it out with the roots included. It was not that hard. I didn't take anything out that had any super deep roots. So my goal now would be to just get them in a pot temporarily so that I can water them and take them indoors. So I need to put soil in these pots. And then later I can separate them into their own private pots and have them go in and out until we are done with our freezes, staying in containers, and then they could be planted back out again or be container plants, whichever you prefer. But this way I might not have to start over with everything again. This is it all potted up, and it's ridiculous. I know I should be putting it in lots of pots, and I have lots of pots, but I don't have enough potting soil. So for now, they're all stuffed into one big pot and then some little containers. And I'm gonna water those and bring them inside. My tower, Greenstock Vertical Garden, is covered in leafy greens, lemon balm. There's one beet, very precious beet. I still even have some warm weather foliage, this watermelon coleus, mint, one strawberry, spinach, lots of arugula, and one cute little spotted lettuce down here. So I will cover this. I have a cover that I'll wrap it in, and then another green stock cover that fits it that'll go on top of that. And it should survive. I cannot bring this inside. It's too heavy, and when I've tried to take it apart in the 5 layers, there were so many bugs. I was like, no thank you. Let's just keep you outside. This is my Arctic Frost Mandarin Orange tree, but it's still a baby and I want to protect it. So on it I have a string light with the old ambient lights that are not LEDs. They're 40 watts and these produce heat. So I wrapped it in Christmas lights all the way down the trunk, and then I'm going to put the freeze cover over it. Now the lights are on underneath the frost cloth. This is a medium weight frost cloth that I got at my local nursery, and I'm holding it down with some bricks. So it's raining now. It's going to be freezing rain tomorrow and getting down to like 18 degrees in the next couple of days. So it's definitely not going to look like this again for a long time. Let's take a quick look at the garden. Some of our little cover crops. Those nasturtiums are done for. The cereal rye grain I'm sure will be fine. Goodbye tomatoes. See you again soon. Yeah. I'm really not covering too much because I'm mostly interested in things that are going to actually survive here. So the Arctic Frost Mandarin Orange is the most cold hardy orange there is. So hopefully it can take these temperatures once it's a little bit older. Over here I put the cover, the green stalk cover over the green stalk vertical tower, and underneath that I also wrapped it with a frost cloth. So that usually does fine. I don't have a lot of pots, but just brought in those plants that I'm trying to save. The blackberry leaves are turning red, which is so beautiful. Look at that. Yeah, got tons of sunflowers and things coming up right now. Those are done for. The garden is already definitely not looking its best here in January, but there's still a lot going on. Want to make sure I catch it. These blooms being frozen will probably not last longer. Beautiful little shrimpy plants. Starting to rain harder. Goodbye, holy basil. I hope you'll grow more again from your seeds next year, or this year in a couple months. The palm tree. I wrapped up my little fence here, and I was gonna wrap it and put it away until maybe next time I'm growing some vining plants. That way I can get back here with a bunch of mulch, which would have been nice if I had already done that. I've got some new little trees, just, yeah, hope they hang in there. All right, I'm definitely getting rained on a lot now. All right. So we got hit by the ice storm, and although it looks like snow, this is solid ice. So let's take a look at the garden. Here's the green stalk vertical garden. And I guess it got down to 16 degrees last night, but the biggest issue is the freezing rain. See a lot of green in there. We'll check out everything later, but looking good right now. And come over here. Check out my mandarin orange tree. So the outside of this is just like freezing ice. Let's see if I can get under it. And it did, ooh, it is iced down all the way. Jeez. Yeah, so if you can see that, you can see the difference is several inches of ice that it did not gather around the roots. Through this, I still see green leaves. I think it's gonna be okay. I'm gonna leave it like this until everything melts. At night, it looks like a lantern with the Christmas lights under there. It's pretty cool. Most of the freezing rain did not land on the branches of the trees. They're not covered in ice. So that's a big difference from the ice storm we had a few years ago. I know this ice storm hit so much of the world. So I hope that you and your gardens are doing well. A few days after the frost, everything is starting to melt. People are back on the roads. I have just a little bit of ice left. Now we can go ahead and see how did the plants fare in our little microclimate environments that we created. So for this orange tree, I put Christmas lights over it, then a medium weight frost cloth, and I just used bricks that I had laying around to hold it down. I try not to have too many plants that require this kind of thing, because that would be a lot of work. And I'm still trying to make it a minimal amount of work, but I really wanted to try to have a mandarin orange tree. And this one is the Arctic Frost mandarin orange, which is the most cold hardy mandarin that exists right now. But it's cold hardy down to about 20 degrees. That's when it is full grown, and right now it's only been in the ground for about 1.5 years. So let's see. All right, it's looking great actually. It doesn't look much, if any, different than it looked before. And these 40-watt bulbs give off a little bit of extra heat. I know we're gonna have another freeze this next weekend. It's not gonna be an ice storm, thankfully, but I'll go ahead and keep those Christmas lights on it and just throw this frost cloth back over it at that time. So that's great. I have no doubt that this orange tree has survived this 2026 January ice storm. Right now, these pineapple guava trees are looking totally fine. They didn't lose any leaves. Very nice. Do need to prune this one pretty soon. So, obviously things like the tomato are gone. The leaves on this plum tree are gonna come off, but they're supposed to be deciduous. And they're supposed to come off at some point anyway. Most of the other trees have already lost their leaves. Some things like these fig leaves definitely cannot live through this kind of frost, but the fig tree itself is perfectly fine. I've also had them die sometimes all the way to the ground, but they usually would come back. Other thing that I did cover was my Greenstock vertical garden, and I used a winter frost cover that I purchased from them that fits over it exactly with a zipper, but noticed that it didn't work really well on its own in other years. So I went ahead and put another cover underneath it. Let's see how everything did in this one. All right. There are a few things in here that I can see did not fare well, but that's because they're more warm weather plants. A lot of it looks fine. The arugula is definitely fine. The lemon balm will recover. The lettuce is good. My beet is doing well. This, I believe, was the coleus, and yeah, I guess even with the frost cover, it was not going to make it through that. So maybe that'll be another one I try and bring in next time. It lasted almost the entire year. We've got spinach, which is looking so cute. Awesome. And the mint looks like it'll survive. Looks pretty good, but not as good as it did before. I think it'll recover. And yeah, so I'll remove some of these by just cutting them at the base and adding something new. Before this whole ice storm came, I went around and tried to save a few of the plants from the garden that I knew would not survive cold weather. Like, I had sunflowers ready to bloom. Look at this. And then it's been sitting in my house. So I went ahead and I dug up a few of these plants. A lot of them have not made it, but so far some of the sunflowers, the Tithonia or Mexican sunflowers, my peppers have just continued growing indoors. And these eggplants are looking nice. So if I can keep these alive, I went ahead and dug these up from the garden. The basil is not looking like it's going to make it, but that's okay. If I get some of these, that's great. I put all of these in one pot, hoping that I could put them back out at some later date. Right now, I'll keep them in and out of the house as weather permits until I can safely plant them out again. This tree was pretty amazing. This is an Einsheimer apple tree, and I noticed from my window during the freeze that it was bent over. It was basically covered with a little bit of ice and bending over. It's completely recovered, and it's never needed to have any support. It actually started out as a 1 foot tall tree a couple years ago, and now it's about 6 feet tall. And I've got 2 other apple trees back here, but that's exciting. So the apple trees seem fine. The vines that were left over from the sweet potatoes definitely didn't make it, but they're not a cold weather hardy plant anyway. Any roots underground may survive because I definitely have perennial sweet potatoes come up wherever you miss some. So the blackberries are looking great. This shrimp plant, the flowers dramatically turn black, which is kind of interesting. But yes, so I'll eventually cut some of these plants back down to the ground that are perennials. They'll come back from the roots. I usually wait to cut those down until I start to see the green coming in from the bottom again. Here's one of my new trees that we just planted. It's bare root. This is called the June Yellow Plum. And yeah, I have no idea. Its bare roots was supposed to be planted in this dormant season, so hopefully it's totally fine. The leaves on this palm tree have definitely died, so we'll have to wait and see if it grows new green leaves. Hopefully it survived. Back here is another new tree I just planted, and it's a mulberry. This one is a mystic red mulberry tree. These leaves have already started to leaf out since I planted it, which is crazy, but it was so warm and just 73 degrees Fahrenheit right before the ice storm. So right now, I believe hopefully just those leaves died and the tree is fine. We'll see. Now over here in the patch of cover crops, it looks like for sure our winter grass is doing well. So this is a cereal rye grain, and it looks like the ice didn't phase it one bit. Some of the other plants are going to become food for the soil, and just as they decompose, I can see wine cups and clovers down in here that survived. Also some leafy greens. The lavender looks amazing. This is a blonde lavender. This holy basil looks all dried up. Dusty Miller looking beautiful. No problem with the frost. A Fuji apple tree. How has everything been going for you guys? How'd your plants fare through this ice storm, if you were affected? Yeah, I'd love to know different ways that you guys are trying to help your plants survive to the next season. And I'll give you an update later on how these guys do. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your week.